Lagos Federal People's Law. That has been with us for over a decade because that was passed into law in 2011, June 2011 precisely, and it came to be, enforcement started in 2012. We have the other one, which is the federal legislation and the National Act on Disability, which is the provision provision against discrimination against a person Disability Prohibition Act 2018. Please, the mic is on. Okay. So can we hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, these two pieces of legislation, as I've said, they are on the same subject matter. And who is the subject matter? Persons with disability. I don't want to bother us with the definition of person with disability because I believe either by omission or commission, either we like it or we know person with disability, because as you are sitting there, even if you don't have one closer to you, but on the streets, you've seen a blind person, you've seen somebody on crutches on wheelchair, maybe by accident or in one way or the other, you've met somebody that cannot speak or hear. And we have another category of intellectual disability. So, in a nutshell, these are categories of persons with disability. And these two pieces of legislation is meant for this category of persons. Mm-hmm. But before we go in depth into the provisions of these two pieces of legislation, we have to have a background information. Because to some people, they assume that there was no provision for persons with disability prior to the enactment of these laws. The answer is no. Prior to the enactment of these two pieces of legislation, and order of its contemporaries in other states will be having provisions for persons with disability. But to start with, you know, our culture and our religion, persons with disability are regarded as who? Persons that are invalid. People that are not productive, these people that are inferior, people that are unequal, people that cannot do well, and that's why we have various names for them and they have various cliches for them. For those in Yoruba, we will say, "Toju ba ti fo, fa adidofu." Is that the reality? Well, maybe then, that may. And the moment your friends are inviting me to come for a church and mosque program, what they're aiming at is what? Miracle. For me to regain my sight. Because as far as they are concerned, once you live with visual impairment or any form of disability, they are far, far better than you. So that used to be the erroneous belief. But as time emerged, we were able to prove to them that disability is not an ability. And at times I beg to wonder, I've asked that question, I've not found an answer till now. Because if you agree that we are not sufficient on our own, that the fact that you're a human being, you depend on others in one way or the other for survival, that means you are disabled in one way or the other. So, who are persons with disability? Who are persons without disability? That question I've not been able to find an answer to. Because to me, either we like it or not, so far you're a human being, you're a person with disability. You may have your body part complete, but the fact that as a woman that you are, you need a man sometimes to fill in some gaps. In that aspect, you are disabled. If you want to use that in that perspective. So that is to say that there's nobody without disability. And if you want to say, okay, well, there are people that all of us, we are able in one way or the other, because we all have our limitations. So, as the society will call us, persons with disability, as we agree that we are persons with disability, but we never agree that we are persons with inability. We may be with disability, but we are not with inability. And as a result, we started advocacy. Not me, but those like that lived before us. We started from the church. You know, then, when you see a blind person or somebody, I know they will say, okay, take him to one pastor or to one man to be learning the Bible one way or the other. when they want to pray, when the blind person pray, they will say amen louder because they believe it's being used by God because he cannot commit sin. That was the assumption. From there, they started recognizing us in the temple. We became notable in the church, and as Western education came and the British came too, they brought us some form of inclusion. And as a result, we started having education, inclusion in society, bit by bit, and all those things, they were products of advocacy. So we now got to the stage that in those days, then, before the law, what we used to have was that if a governor comes around or a leader comes around and the person likes or maybe it's of that charitable act that believes that, oh, I need to give charity in one way or the other to person with disability, they include us in the scheme of affairs. That's why they will say, okay, they want to give us employment because they are not employed not because they think we are productive, but they are employed not because, okay, well, let me have pity on them so that they can have something to get money. So that is how we started. But we now notice that the moment you don't have a governor that has passion for PWD, there's nothing for us. I can give you examples of states in Nigeria that when a particular governor came in, it was at least enjoyment galore for PWD. When that one Lazara came, there was nothing again. So, and we now thought that we need to institutionalize these needs. That's why we agitated for disability inclusive legislation. That was brought about Lagos State Special People's Law. That was about the Discrimination Act and some other disability laws. Both are communicating. So that's a background to the law. So the law trying now to institutionalize those things we are having as a result of discretion. Discretion means that, well, they will give us education if the government believes that, okay, let me give them. They will give us infrastructure if the government believes that, let's give them. But we now say that whether the government likes it or not, let it be a law. So that in case that is not provided, then we can fight and agitate for it. So part of what the law has made a right for us in both the laws is education. Now it's not a right for persons with disabilities to have access to education in the format that will fit their needs, that will suit their needs. We all know that I'm sitting and reading Braille. This is a format that will suit my own needs. Somebody is by my left, by my right, doing sign language. That's a format that will suit some disabilities needs. And we have different kind of modes of passing that education. The law now make it mandatory that whenever you are providing education, that education must be in the format that it will meet the needs of the learners with disability, so that they can have equal access to education like their able counterparts. We have access to care, health care too. Yes, an issue arose when we were talking about Lagos State health insurance for PWD. When they were making that provision, they said that they want to enroll PWD. Then we made a case that this particular coverage does not take into cognizance the needs of the peculiar health needs of persons with disability. Because for some of us, yes, the regular health service delivery can meet our demands. But children with intellectual disability, they need more. And the parents spend more in getting this health care delivery available to them. But the insurance does not include that. We try to advocate and say that this thing should include, because, and that advocacy is not based on what we think. It's based on the provision of the law that says that there must be what? Health care provision for persons with disability that will suit their medical needs. We have the issues of preference on queue too, and state of emergency. That whenever there's a queue, a person with disability is not expected to be on the queue, should be given prerogative. When there's state of emergency too, if all the respondents, when they came before the rescue order, they must rescue the person with disability first. because they know that they are more vulnerable than other people. When they talk about social security in the law talks about access to public places, public infrastructures. That's why you see most of the bridges constructed in Lagos with pedestrian ramps that one can wheel yourself and cross to the other side without being carried from one place to another. So those are the salient provisions of the law. And what I'm saying is equal in just like the duplication of what is contained in the Lagos Social Defense Law or that of the Discrimination Act. And service delivery too. All these things are contained in the law. Now, having known some of the major provisions of the law now, yes, sign language interpreter is there too, service delivery is there too, and some other provisions like that. But my task primarily is to do what? Is to assess the implementation. For especially Lagos Federal People's Law, for those of us that are around in Lagos, yes, we see pockets of implementation. The very first one we see is the establishment of Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs, because that's the creation of the law. It's not a creation of the governor. The law creates that office, and the setting up of that office is a way of implementing that particular law. That has compliance there. And we've had 2 governing boards, and we have a general manager, which are provisions of the law. Another basic provision of at the federal level too, we have the executive secretary, and the Disability Commission is a product of the Discrimination Act, which says there's to be a commission in that regard. So that commission is created, is set up pursuant to the provision of the law. So that's the level of compliance with the provision of that particular law. And we have the executive secretary. And although in Lagos State Federal People's Law, it is not necessary that the general manager must be a person with disability, but by way of practice in Lagos here, all the 3 general managers we've had have always been persons with disability. But at the federal level, it is expressly that ES must be a person with disability, and we just have one substantive executive secretary. So that is compliance with the law. In Lagos too, the law provides for disability fund. That was launched in 2016 with 500 million naira to be administered by the office. And the office, which is Lasoda, have carried out several programs aimed at implementing the law. The National Commission too, they've carried several programs aimed at implementing the law. We've had sign language training, we've had quiz competition interaction, we have various empowerment program and projects in terms of entrepreneurship empowerment and assistive mobility empowerment, both at the federal and the state level by the office and that of the commission. And in the commission too, lately they gave scholarship to persons with disability in the university. So those are ways by which the law has been implemented in one way or the other. But the question I think will be agitating your mind is, has it addressed the challenges? Well, I will leave that to our various assessments and judgments. But for me to speak to it as a teacher before being a lawyer, they will say when you are going to the class, there's always a behavioral outcome. Yes, we have solutions, we have problems. And whatever solution you are bringing must be able to tackle the problems. We are talking about access to education. And the law makes provision that there must be equal and equitable access to education of persons with disability. But can we say that is true situation that we have on ground today? Yes, even before the law, we have inclusive schools, because inclusion at primary school level did not start with the law. It started years back before the law was even enacted. But in one way or the other, we still have a gap, because some disability are not adequately provided for under that particular system that we run. And the purpose of the law is to make sure that that particular disadvantage is remedied. But yet we are, although let's say we are still, it's a work in progress. That is one. In terms of infrastructure, when you look around, like the pedestrian, the ramp and bridge that I talked about, yes, they exist. But how are they accessible to people on wheelchairs? Because the location of the bus stop itself is far to where these bridges are located. There are barriers, there are barricades that they need to cover, they need to cross before getting to the bridge. And at the end of the day, it's just like giving a child a sweet without removing it from the nylon. How will he taste the sweet? Yeah, we talked about Q. For me, the information is not yet out there because we've had a lot of time that you need to fight when you are trying to claim that right on Q. Some people embarrass you to say that I might want to cause your disability in one way or the other because they are not aware that what you are doing is your right given by law. Because those are the things that was happening then that we want to remedy by the time. I think that there must be preference on Q. Also, access to public buildings. I can bet with you most of our banks today in Lagos, very many of my colleagues on wheelchair approaches cannot access their customer care because they are located upstairs. I've been to several banks to see for myself whether, because they say when you do advocacy, you have to be evidence-based. So most of them, they are upstairs. Our BRT buses, yes, we have some buses that you can wheel yourself in, but the problem is that when you are waiting, where will the people on which, where will they where will they sit? Because at times you may need to stay for hours before the buses are available. Mind you, if you know that there's nowhere to sit, will you be able to use any of those facilities? The answer is no. So, and why do we have these challenges, even despite that we have the law? It's simple. One, people don't understand the administrator of the office or the commission. They don't understand the nature of that particular office. Disability office or disability commission is not meant to cater, to take over government responsibility towards any disability. It is established to ensure that each MDA, ministry, grant and agencies are inclusive of disability in their programs. For example, it's not the business of Disability Commission to take over the provision of education for persons with disability, but it's their business to ensure that Ministry of Education make adequate provisions for education of persons with disability. It's not the duty for the law to become fully enforced. So those are the few challenges, and the solution to these challenges are the way forward. I think I'll be able to speak certainly to the cross of the matter. Maybe by the time we have questions, we'll be able to dig deeper so that I will not shut you out of the discourse. Thank you. I want to entertain questions, please. Okay. Your question?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. My name is Abolarinwa. Now, my question is that you talk about persons living with disabilities, their right to education. Now, their right to education, does it limit to public sectors and not private owned schools? Okay, I have a okay.
Maybe
Okay. So, my name is Abolarinwa. Now, my question, you talked about. Are you hearing me? Okay, you talked about persons living with disabilities. That's their right to education as part of the law. Now, my question is that their right to education now does it limit to only public schools or it's cut across private schools too? And I have a case study of a school because I work with children in mainstream schools. So I have a case study of a school that we walked into with a parent. And when we got to that school, the parent told me that she has been to that school before. And what they told her was that children with special needs are not allowed in the school. So I told her we need to go there again. So why wouldn't they allow him in the school? Is he not a person? Is he not a human? Is he not a human being? So we went into that school and the secretary was like, I'm trying to remember what I told you. So she made mention of that same statement. So I asked her why. Is he dead? He's living. Why? She said that she does not have any response. So she took me to the head of school. I asked the head of school the same question. So she was like asking me that, what do you have if this child is enrolled in this school? I said, okay, what we have is therapy. We'll be having his therapy sessions provided we have a small space in the school. She said no, that is not allowed. They don't allow children with special needs in the school. And I remember that if these kids go to special school, what they do is that they send them to mainstream schools so that they can learn from their peers. And we have seen it. It worked. This child, we knew when it started, and we know where he is now. Why mingling with others in the school? And this particular school is a well-known school that denied this boy access. So in that regard, what do we do, sir? Is it that it's limited to only public schools, or it's cost across public and private? And if we have that, what do we do to that school? Thank you.
Good question, a very good scenario. Access to education. Access to education that the law talks about is access to education in its entirety, whether public or private. But there is a caveat. The caveat is the fact that at times having a private school is a business. And if you don't have that resources to provide for those basic needs that will make the school inclusive, because if I register my school as a regular school, you cannot compare me to register it as a special school or a mixed school, because I may not have the technicalities or everything to make that school inclusive. I may not have the money. So but if you are to be government, because government has a responsibility to its citizens. So government has to ensure that whenever they are providing education in their public school, it is inclusive of persons with disability. But people that are into private business, they can choose the area. They may say they want to have just only girls only. If today I say, okay, I want to have girls only primary school, you cannot say because I have girls only and you brought a boy to my school and I reject that boy, would you say I'm under compulsion to take the boy? No, that is not so. But the scenario you gave, they didn't give you an answer. So that will fall under general discrimination.
Yes.
And then they told you that yes, we are aware. We don't have provision for this group of class of children here. So bringing him or her here is like you want to waste your time or waste that person's time. Let me give you my even in a regular school, even in government school. When I started primary school, I was not born blind. When my teacher in a regular school noticed that I was not seeing the board regularly, they told my parents that they should take me to a special school in Ondo State then. Would that amount to discrimination? Because it's a public school that I was before, but that particular school is not designed to meet my education needs. That's why even in Lagos today, they will tell you that when they have certain number of inclusive schools. So that means that it's not just any government school you can take children with disability to.
Yes.
So that answers your question. But for them not to give you any valid reason, well, we can test the water that the child is being discriminated against. So that is the simple answer. But if they can justify that, well, we are aware this is a school, but we don't have provision for them. And even in the way our school is not even meant, we didn't establish a mixed school whereby we cater for children with disability. I thought the exam you wanted to give before, because I was in Abuja sometimes late December in a program like this, and somebody came. The woman said she has a school. She made the school inclusive. We have children with intellectual disability in that particular school. She now said in one of their programs they did like end of year party. So the children with intellectual disability took picture with other children. She now posted it on the parents' WhatsApp group, not publicizing it this time around though. On the parent WhatsApp group. Could you believe that the parent of the child without disability went to fight the proprietor? That why is she pairing his children with children that are this is last year issue, and before you know it, they withdrew their child from the school, and again other parents withdrew their child from the school. That now became an issue for the owner of the school. And if tomorrow the owner says I don't want children with disability, we may not know what that person has got before taking that decision. But in that case, you can escalate it, and before you know it, well, they will be compelled to give reason. And if they don't give reason, well, that will be a violation of Discrimination Act or Lagos State Special People's Law in one way or the other. At least we all know what happened last week when KFC denied Daniel's son access to their building. Well, maybe that's just a case that we got to know, but we know that we person with disability, that what we suffer on a daily basis. Maybe because of the child of person, that's why it attracted that kind of. I don't know whether you read about one blind woman too that gave birth to a twin that they were looking for money. It was in the paper this week too. I don't know whether we read about her too. Before this thing happened, some months back, you know, her child was taken away. Till now, they reported at the police station, nothing was done until when we intervened. And up till now, they are just in their T-section without any proactive step by the police. So that is the predicament of societal reaction to issues related to persons with disability. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other?
Thank you, Barrister Abolarinwa, for responding to it.
It's okay, just use it.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I think the scenario she gave regarding that school, we may not tag it to maybe general stigmatization, in the sense that we've had cases like that, and there's need for clarity here, so that we know the kind of advocacy to push forward. What I wanted, Barrister Abolarinwa to respond or to clarify here is that if that school has gone ahead to admit that child, would they be going against the law? Let's even say they have some facilities within, because currently even the inclusive schools, the public inclusive schools in Lagos, we cannot say they have it all. You made mention of it in your presentation. And so if government does not have it all, so that we need to balance it at the moment and leverage on what we have, so that we try as much as possible to reduce the number of out-of-school children with disabilities in Lagos State. Currently, there are 49 public inclusive primary and secondary in Lagos. So we have, I think, 34 primaries. Okay? 34 primaries. And they are not evenly distributed across Lagos. And so, even in working with Lagos State government, the school mapping and assessment we did in 2020 indicated this, accessibility, difficulty in terms of distance or the locations of these schools. So if the schools are not, disputed evenly within the state, and for instance, if we have children with disability across any basin, around my two across the water. So how do we expect these children with disability in those areas to access education? When, in fact, probably how many public inclusive primary schools we have in our world of it? So if we have private schools that would, still admit, because what some of us, NGOs do is to work along with these schools. That's not to train some of the teachers in a way that will be able to engage with learners with disabilities in the classroom, so that some of the children can access education. So, but the clarity we need here is that our schools are private schools because if they have come to government, to Lagos State government, to register as an inclusive school, to know what it takes, the government will demand grade A standard. When in actual fact, government schools say they are not. So in this situation, we want clarity. Are they allowed to admit? Because we have had some instances like this, and it will go a long way to shut the door against many children with disabilities to access education in Lagos State. So are private schools allowed to admit children with disabilities, whether they have facilities or not?
Thank you very much, sir. You see, I said something like the what you mentioned is very critical. One, see this idea of having a selected inclusive primary school. We've said it. Well, I'm a lawyer, but I'm a special educationist. Before I studied law, I read special education. And I can tell you categorically, one of the challenges of persons with disability is mobility. Forget about whether you are deaf. A deaf person can walk, but if you still have issues when it comes to mobility, because when you can walk, you cannot communicate. That will hinder your mobility, movement. Myself, mobility. The other, mobility. Intellectual mobility. So if government can be magnanimous to say that we don't want regular children in Ibeche to be going to Ebute to attend primary school, they brought primary school closer to them. Then who should they bring primary school closer to? It should be children with disability. And let me tell you one thing that is missing. That's why I said at DMB we have a disability office, whether commission or office, that is working. Your concern that you raise would have been alleviated. They can even be a soft landing for private schools that are ready to be inclusive in nature. Lasoda can make a recommendation to Mr. Governor, please, government cannot do this alone. Any private school that is ready to support, to assist, should be given, even if they are paying 1 million naira, so they can cut down to 800,000 or 500,000 naira instead of charging them the more. But what we cannot do is this: we will not allow a general inclusion, because that is where we are getting it from, even government. If you want to be disability inclusive, for you to be saying, I want to run a school that is disability inclusive, that means you are saying that you have to make special provision for the blind, if you intend to admit blind people. Deaf, that's another provision on your own. Intellectual, physical, and so on and so forth. And that will come at a cost. We may not decide to say, well, we know that you running these together, you may not have the resources. But you cannot say, okay, well, you tell us which area of inclusion you want to do. You want to include the blind people, the deaf people, the intellectual. That is, we now assess you based on that. We assess the facility you have based on that. So that it won't be like a general assessment. For example, when you get to Ipakodo there now, you may not, you find a teacher that is trained to teach the blind, teaching the children with intellectual disability. Then what result do you expect? The fact that I'm a special teacher does not mean I can teach all kind of disability. That is one. Then what happened to daily living skills? You know, they said it in the hall the other time. Because that is, for example, as I'm seated here, sir, if I come to your house and I say I want to go and light the gas, will you allow me? I want to prepare by your house. You say, I'm not going to be going to Sarah. And I say, I want to iron my clothes. When I was in Unilag, when I started staying at the I hope when I want to iron, they will say, no, they should have me to iron. But you know what I did? I just mastered everything. I know where the ironing room, where the iron went. When everybody is sleeping, and what? I'm in the ironing room ironing my clothes. And I even iron their own that is there. When they now who know this? Because my nickname is Professor. Ex-Professor. Before you know it, my uncle said, Professor, Bami iron Ashon because you iron better than other people in the house. And these are things that we learned in the school. That's why we are saying that, yes, inclusive is fine, but let's start with special school. Residential special school first. You cannot go to Pacelli. Pacelli is private. It's Catholic owned. You cannot, the so-called 34 inclusive you have in Lagos, the blind people in Pacelli, they are times 10 more than the so-called 32 to 34 together. And if the schools are functioning, that means you have more in the inclusive school than having it in the private school, which is Pacelli. So the concern is, to me, is very seamless, not an issue at all. And answer your question, sir. Private schools are allowed to admit special students because you see, most especially when it comes to Disability Act does not limit public to only government owned. They define it in a way that so far you render a service of a public nature to the society, you'll be deemed to be a public institution. That's why we capture the banks. Because ordinarily banks are not what? They are not public institutions per se. They are not government owned per se. But because they render service to the public, that's why KFC is not public institution per se. But because they render service of a public nature to the public, that's why they are captured. I think it will be in your house that you ask the Ebola and not to enter. Do you think they come and arrest you?
No.
Because that's all right. You can say somebody should not enter your house, even if the person is not disabled. It's within your right. Because your house is not a public place. But the moment you turn down your house to where they do, what do you call it? Eatery. Where you sell amala and bakery. And I can say, you don't allow that blind man to come in there. But I may sue you. So I hope I answer your question, sir. So I think yeah, quickly, sir.
My name is Ojola Kwebedo. This working. My question is on alleged crimes and people with disabilities, and if there are laws that protect people around that. An example is my brother is autistic. So my
Your brother is
autistic.
okay.
Yeah, so my mom sent him out to buy something, and then the vendor did not give him change. And then my mom went back and said, give me my son's change. And then she said,
The vendor did not what?
the vendor said, and she went back to the vendor to tell him that you didn't give my son change. Then she said, Abolarinwa, woman, he keeps change. He keeps money, so he kept the money. So, and my mom was like, my brother has never done something like that before, so why would you lie against somebody that can't defend himself? So, in situations like that, this situation can be like more serious. So, in situations like this, certain people with autism that can't express themselves or don't know what is going on, are there laws that protect disabilities like this?
The last one, let me take it.
Are there laws?
No, I understand. I get it.
The next person.
The next person.
Sorry.
I know when it comes to writing, because we're talking about education now,
Yes.
creating rules for them, making them inclusive in all ways. I know WAEC. I'll give an example. I have a business, and she's going to be writing junior WAEC next year. Now I have a worry. My worry is that not that she doesn't know what to write, but she's slow. Connecting, and that's why they call it intellectual or developmental disability. And knowing that you're the chairperson, I know Lagos is a center of excellence. Have they factored ways of giving them time or putting them? Because I know they've been either blind, deaf, dumb, but not people with intellectual disability in terms of writing external exams. That's one. Then secondly, people with intellectual disability are visual learners. And if you notice our syllabus did not factor them into creating the kind of syllabus we have. So are there ways, are they trying to have a reform in this sector? Because even if you tell them to go to the school, sometimes the teachers are helpless. They don't even know how to go with the reasonable accommodation. They too get traumatized. It's like, oh, I see potential in this child, but the system is not allowing the child to pay for it. Yes. So have you factored this? Are there ways of reform for all this? Thank you. The syllabus and the examination.
Yes. And the first question.
Thank you. On the issue of ideal laws, like the scenario you painted is a matter of fact, proof. Because I've not seen any issue of crime there. It's just a matter of somebody, you are saying that because when it comes to law will only prove possibilities. Is it possible for the child to collect the change and lose the change? No. Is a possibility, yes or no? And it's possible for that person to play a fast game on the child, knowing that, okay, the child may not be able to explain him or herself when he gets home. That's a possibility too. So, but to me, I've not seen a crime committed per se, except you are unable to prove that at the end of the day, it was established that the person did not give that person a change. But generally, the Lagos State Special People's Law talked about cruelty. That's, you are not allowed, even to even medical surgery, medical science, all those things are not allowed. Cruelty practices is prohibited. If you do that, well, you are in for it. So there are other harmful practices. It talks about that too. So like some people that you don't be, they will turn because in Yoruba land, the moment you cannot you are not reasoning the way they can reason, or I've seen the show whereby my friend told me that his neighbor want to know whether truly he can see or not. Whenever he's coming, he's putting things on the way. And when you bump into it, they just enter there and just start laughing. So we have people of that, if they are caught, they are in for that. Even using them for house begging is prohibited too. So all those things are in the law. They are criminal acts in the law. Then on the issue of white that you talked about, Barr, ordinarily, when it comes to the standard practices in the world, there's always extra time. And I know the WAEC, the West African Examination Council, they embed that. They also give extra time for those with learning disability. I'm aware of that, and I know that. But when it comes to junior WAEC, we call it junior WAEC, but it's not junior WAEC in that sense, because it's the state government that is organizing that. So that's why I said the issue of education, we are still not getting it right here. So I didn't think we'll be getting it right. This aspect back that this particular, I know they'll be taking notes so that we know where our advocacy will continue from. I know I told that I want to make you better advocates and better, how do I call it, activists, so that you know where you start from there. Because where you say you have a right to education and the child is not getting that education in the format the child should have gotten it, that means that right to education is what? It's violated. So, if they are not giving your child or that person that opportunity to have equal opportunity or equity to that education, you can sue whoever that's organizing that particular exam for violating that child's right to education. On the issue of teacher, I told you, the system we adopt in Lagos will not work, because when you are doing inclusion, like everywhere in the world where they do inclusion, if like this is a class, if you have a child with intellectual disability in this class now, there will be a teacher that is trained in that, studying being with that particular teacher. As my sister is doing sign language to my deaf colleague, he will be the one watching that particular child. So after the class, they what we call IEP, Individual Educational Learning Plan. So after the class, the teacher will not take the child to another secluded apartment will now give the child a better tutelage. That what they taught you in class in the morning, they know that you cannot comprehend it with the same speed like other children. The special child will bridge in the gap. That is the way inclusive education is being run in any civilized climate, not the way we think we are running it here. So now that we are aware the way it should be run, please, let's make sure that we talk, and we talk based on evidence, and we talk based on what we think should be. I think I've answered your question. But they said our session has gone. Can we do that in another 3 minutes?
One quick question. You know, the other time it was more of the child was not admitted into school. So a situation where the child was admitted into a school, they claimed to be inclusive. They collected school fees. The child resumed school, and after a few days, the parent received a call and said, "Come take your child away because this child needs to go to the mountain. Go and leave this child on the mountain and let him be prayed for." So now is a difference from no inclusion. So you had seen him, you had assessed him, and you had accepted him. You're not taking that child. So is it
So they're not going to protect you to the mountain. That's
yes, it's not even about that. You know, you told me you were capable of doing this work. So in such situation, who do we report to? Because I was refunded, it's a personal story. So the money was refunded to me, my school fees, after the assessment. So in such situation, who should we report to? Even if it's not for my child, for another child, so we fight this cause. Okay, let's
Talking about rights, laws, and all these things. Okay, we are talking about laws and rights and all these things. That
Maybe you need to come closer. I can't hear you.
you can't hear you.
Can you come closer?
Formal existence of laws, rights, free this, free that. But the thing is that a lot of people don't know these laws or whatever exist. Even the educated and enlightened, you know, there's no information. The disseminating of information is key. A lot of people don't know this. There's no jingles. Let's now talk about the grassroots. How are they getting this information? It's not being interpreted in their native language. In fact, I don't even know a lot of these things exist. You know? So how would they have access to these things when they don't know? They're not informed. So let's start from there first. Because they can't enjoy this thing when they don't know about it.
So I'm actually an advocate. I go into schools to talk about inclusion. I am particularly concerned with schools that admit children with needs that do not have any provisions for them. I have been to a number of schools where you see children with needs just stay in the class from morning till night and then until the close of school, and then they go home. Please, is there something that is in place, or is there something that is in the works to protect those children? Because they're basically not getting anything. The school is just taking school fees without anything. So that's just
okay, thank you. Let me start from the last point. What is in place is the law, because the law says education, and once you sign to admitting me, that means you are telling me that you have provision for me. One, if you don't have, well, at Kokona, there's a breach of contract already. And you know the effect of breach of contract in one way or the other. Then the what is in place, you see, by the time we start agitating and we have a full-fledged government agency that is alive to its responsibility, all these people can be picketed and we make them to do the needful. We can encourage them to do the needful. And like you said, part of what we should be telling them now is what they are doing right and what they are doing wrong. That's part of your advocacy. And in case they don't do that, this child has a right to education. And the moment somebody is collecting money and they are not getting that education, it's a violation of that particular right. You may not need any organization to help you do that, because the law says individuals can seek redress when they think their rights are violated. So that is that about that. On the second, the first speaker, you said they returned the money after assessment, and they said they should take the child to mountain. Yes. You see, that taking the child to mountain, that particular was discriminatory. It's condemnation in one way or the other. That can earn them a lawsuit in one way or the other. So, and the issue of returning the money without that provision too, well, it depends on the way you look at it. it can amount to a breach of contract one way or the other. But if truly they don't have provision for the child, I think it is honorable for them to tell you that you don't have provision, take the child to a better school where the interest of the child can be better protected. Instead of adding the words, go to the mountain, go to this, go to that. Well, it's possible because I remember there was a day I was talking to somebody. He said even his pastor, when they are praying, they will say, okay, may God heal your child so that all this is bringing disgrace to you. He said it was when he fought that pastor, that's when the pastor stopped saying that. People, they may believe honestly they are advising the parent. And don't be surprised, some parents put themselves in that situation. It may not be out of a very genuine discussion that they had that kind of utterance. It may not be intentional. The second speaker, I've forgotten the question.
Awareness.
Okay, the issue of awareness about this, about the law. Well, I think for this particular conference to include this session, well, that is how the awareness will be created in one way or the other.
Nice. Okay, so sir, sorry, report. Can you please, sorry everyone, I'm president of Joint Association of Persons Living with Disability. So all these trousers, if you want to take it, is the Jonapid president. So it is very easy to give us an answer. Now, who do we report when this happens? Which office should we go to?
Well, when this happens within Lagos, Community Affairs, they are in charge. Report to them. Then report to the Ministry of Education, but as the disability community herself, report to me. If the government refuses to act, if the office refuses to act, we take the bull by the eye, we compel them to act, and we compel the school to act in one way or the other. So we have very structured disability organizations and associations that can help to fight that kind of unholy behavior, if I'm allowed to use that word. So my number is 08234 968521. It's a WhatsApp number. So it's better you do a WhatsApp message so that you have it on record. 00 3496 8521. Then at times you don't some people that take their children to all these schools without provision. They know, but because they don't want the children to be associated with them, they just want to put the children in the school. That's why they don't buy mind spending millions, but just want to sit. If not until now, I'm very sorry to say, I don't think majority of us do not know that former governor of Ogun State has a child with disability. And I can tell you, I know of a multi-million naira Abidola in Lagos here that has a child with intellectual disability. So can we call it a day?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.